Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 216, recording on Sunday, December 15th, 2024. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And on this week's episode, the biggest night in gaming has arrived. The Game Awards 2024 took place last week. We will be breaking down all the winners, the losers, and all of the major announcements that took place.
You mean Sean and I will be breaking it down because you have boycotted, right? Isn't that what you meant?
I don't know exactly what I said, but if Elden Ring, what's a Shadow of the Erdtree had won Game of the Year as DLC, then I would have boycotted officially forever.
Oh, okay. Right.
But that didn't happen, thankfully. So we're here
Saved.
to talk about it. Did you guys watch the Game Awards live?
I did not watch it live. No. Pre-recorded. YouTube.
What speed?
Varying speeds. Some 2 times, some complete skipping, others 1.5. I tried to watch all the trailers at 1.5, some at 1, but none. I tried to not do it 2. 2's a little too fast for a trailer, I think. So I had to slow it down. Be respectful a little bit. Tiny
the hardest thing about watching the Game Awards like that is trying to separate what is Honkai ads and other like huge conglomerate online games from actual announcements. And if you don't have a savvy eye, you might not even be able to pick up on it. The payola versus actual announcements. Sean, I was messaging with Sean. He was pissed, as he always is lately. And I was like, this is the best Game Awards ever. And he's like, yeah, except for these Honkai ads. I think it's the stupidest award show.
Many Hoyoverse announcements and trailers. Yeah, it's just, there's so many of them now, but
like they got to pay for the awards somehow, Sean. Come on. You can't derail an entire Game Awards.
Much better than having, what was that one year where they had like Monster Energy drinks everywhere and Doritos and whatnot?
Oh my God, that sounds like heaven.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun show. It was just a long night. And I think maybe that's great evidence that they've finally reached parity with the Oscars, where it's like by the end of the night, you're just like, oh God, wrap this up, please.
I completely disagree. I thought I was having so much fun watching the Game Awards from beginning to end live. Was on the Film Junk Discord. Everyone was going crazy. This is officially the most important night in games now. I certainly looked back upon Summer Games Fest and other events by Jeff Keighley, and it seemed like he made a pretty concerted effort to like minimize announcements then. Anything maybe he was talking to people about, push it to the Game Awards. The Game Awards is where you want to drop your biggest stuff, the best surprises, save it all for that. And don't get lost in the shuffle of other streams. And I think it was a very smart idea. I know last year we'd already spoken of like the Game Awards feels pretty relevant now. And I would say the 10th anniversary this year, we heard that a lot. It is at peak relevance, in my opinion. I thought it was the best Game Awards ever and like the best event of 2024. Out of all the streaming stuff, announcement things we watched and talked about, this would be the best one, hands down, aside from the awards. Like just the announcements were amazing.
Now, have you guys heard about the competitor that's going on this year? I think it's in early January, the Real Game Awards. Have you heard about that?
That sounds...
I think it's Sean that did it.
That sounds like a court case waiting to happen.
Yes, well, it's real. It's happening. January, let's see if I can find the date. Nope, can't find it. I think I listened to a podcast and it is early January, but it's all voted on by people who will pay basically like a membership fee. And there's no trailers, there's no payola, as far as I could tell ahead of time. It's all kind of like member funded. So you got to pay whatever, $5 for a vote. And then you vote for the categories they have. And so it's not voted on by outlets. it's voted on by gamers. And so
Sounds like exactly like payola to me. You pay to vote.
Well,
That, the
pay to
definition
vote.
of payola.
I think it's the intention is more to avoid like bots spamming it and just like
It's a small
overriding.
percentage of the Game Awards. It's like it's just a minor factor for voting.
For the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not the real Game Awards. The real Game Awards
I'm just saying, I
are
don't think
pure voting.
I don't think payola or spamming is an actual problem with Jeff Keighley's Game Award.
You don't think if like, you know, Helldivers 2 was up against Elden Ring, or sorry, Astrobot was up against Elden Ring for Game of the Year, you don't think a whole bunch of Elden Ring freaks would spam Elden Ring so it wins?
Yeah, I think we're agreeing. I'm saying the real Game Awards are payola.
No, I'm saying the payola is there for a reason to stop the spammers from taking it over. That's why the payola exists.
But at the Game Awards, what you're saying didn't happen. It was Elden Ring against Astrobot.
No. What I'm saying is at the Game Awards, gamers don't vote for the games. It's like media outlets that vote for the games.
They get 10% for the winners.
Yeah,
They don't
minor.
get to pick the nominees.
I don't want gamers to vote on the Game Awards.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing. Like I personally am more interested in what industry and journalists think are the best games of the year. Personally, I get why there might be some appeal to just the average gamer. I guess they do have that one award for
Which
at the Game
journalists do you follow regularly, Sean, that you respect the opinion of?
I don't necessarily
games.
respect any one journalist's opinion, but what I do respect about journalists in the game industry, and this is something I've thought about a lot these past few days, is most of them, I would say more so than any person, like just average person, if they could vote on a game they liked, they've at least tried most of the game of the year or major games that year. I think there could be someone who's only played Elden Ring in this other real game awards that could vote just for that. At least journalists have sampled a bunch of things. Like if I had the time, I would play every game I could. Like thinking of doing our year-end lists for Game Junk versus Film Junk, I know I can commit 2 hours and evaluate something if it should be on my list or not. With the games, I can't commit to 60 hours to evaluate, do I like this game or not? And it feels a little unfair, but I think for the most part, game journalists are trying almost everything. And I think they are a better representative of what games are the best than the actual gamers. Because a lot of gamers just say a game sucks and haven't even played it. Everyone's made fun of Concord and no one even played it.
Yeah. I guess my point is that I don't know any people I follow regularly anymore that review games regularly, like the way you're talking about. Like back in the day, sure, IGN had people that did that. GameSpot had people that did that. You know, Giant Bomb, you know, all these places we used to follow, those places don't exist anymore. Game Trailers doesn't exist.
Well, they still exist, but the people who were originally there generally are not there anymore. But I still follow those people.
Right, but are they still like putting out reviews and respected by the Game Awards and give their opinion? I don't think so.
Some of them are. Some of them aren't.
Some?
Like
I didn't think they were.
Let's take IGN just as an example.
IGN's still a beast. So
but you
IGN.
might agree or disagree with IGN on a review or something like that. But I'm sure like the major people there, when they play everything or at least try almost everything. I don't think there's people that are saying, I only play this game or I just care about writing clickbait articles. I'm sure some of those journalists exist, but like the big names at IGN that do podcasts, I think they try everything or want to at least try everything rather than just playing a niche or subset of games, which is, I think, important. Even I have blind spots with genre that might not be fair. I try to at least attempt to play those games. And if anything, when I don't like them, I usually put the blame on myself. Like, oh, I want to like this game. It's just not for me.
Fair enough. Okay, so I pulled up Astrobot's Metacritic reviews. Okay. Mm-hmm. You stop me when you've heard of an outlet that may be voting at the Game Awards that you've heard of, just heard of. Okay. CG Magazine.
I don't think these
Comic Book, Game Liner, Dot Esports, Game Spew? Stop me when you've heard one of these that are potentially
it would
voting.
be easier if we just read off the outlets that did vote on the Game Awards, and there's a bunch in there that you know for sure.
Okay, all right.
And I would add, I don't, if you're kind of, to me, you're proving the opposite of your point where they got it right. If those are the people on Astrobot and they voted for Astrobot to be Game of the Year, they were most likely correct. There's a few things you could say were Game of the Year, but the last 10 years of the Game Awards, nothing feels like extremely out of place or like who is voting on this stuff. I feel like they kind of got it right almost every year, aside for some years when there was like two really good games, both deserving of Game of the Year. The Game Awards, as far as I'm concerned, are like compared to the Oscars, way more legitimate. The Oscars, Coda won for Best Picture. What are we talking about here? Like,
Well,
it would be like Star Wars Outlaws winning Game of the Year. It just doesn't make sense.
so I just want to make one real quick point because I know this is a debate that happens all the time, and I feel like there is a belief out there that, you know what, I have my streamers that I follow and I trust them more than I trust IGN or GameSpot. And that's cool. Like, you get to know somebody who's a streamer, you get to know their taste. I understand that. But I also do think you need to realize streamers are way more susceptible to being bought out to payola than IGN and GameSpot and some of these other places. Like, they actually have guidelines and things that they follow. Like, yes, they have advertisers that their parent company may have a relationship with, and that's complicated. But like, to be a journalist, a games journalist, if you're trying to do the best you can, there are things you have some level of integrity. Whereas I don't think streamers have any integrity personally. I know they look honest and real, like real people, but I don't think they care.
You streamers out there, you look on it, but we know it's really going on, right, Sean? Oh, Sean's pissed at the stream. That's what he was mad about. It's the streamers. They're compromising his child. They're telling Kieran to play games that are terrible, and now I understand why Sean is mad.
That is definitely true, but this is actually a good segue into the winners of the Game Awards, because Astrobot did win Game of the Year. And I was kind of surprised that like some of the headlines I saw just randomly on social media and stuff were Astrobot wins Game of the Year and people are pissed. And I was like, really? Okay. Like, I was surprised. So I think there is a whole kind of group of people that just look at Astrobot as, well, that's kid stuff, and why didn't Black Myth Wukong win or Elden Ring win? And I guess maybe that's where the divide is, where they're like, oh, that's journalist bullshit versus what true gamers play. But
I played all of these games except for the one I am literally unable to play, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. And I loved Elden Ring. So I said that should probably win Game of the year it won. I don't think the DLC should win. Looking at the nominees, other than Balatro, which got a lot of love, Astrobot is the winner in this category. And I've played them all. I don't think it's close. If Helldiver was in here, that would be the only one I would say. Or even to some degree, Prince of Persia. I can't even believe it's not nominated. Anyway, enough debate and discussion. The only thing I was going to say was Jeff Keighley is Canadian, right? He mentioned this.
I think so.
A few times in the show. Any chance the Game Awards are funded by Filmation? I believe that's the company that made the Ghostbusters cartoon and stole the name Ghostbusters.
And Masters of the Universe.
Was Filmation Ghostbusters though?
It is, but that's not a Canadian company.
It's not?
I don't think so.
Come on now.
An American production company.
Okay, well, I take it back. Sorry, Keely. We'll get the real Game Awards like we got the real Ghostbusters, and real Game Awards will not be accurate, and they will be quickly disregarded. And
I guess we'll see.
We will. We shall see. Coming up, let's actually do the award winners quickly.
Sure.
Sound good? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Game of the Year, as we've already discussed, Astrobot. No surprises there.
I think we all called that, right?
Yep. Best game direction, Astrobot. I think I might have said Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, now that I'm thinking of it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I said that too. So this was actually one thing that was interesting, and when we talked about our predictions, a lot of times when there was games nominated in multiple categories, we were kind of like, okay, it should be obvious. Like if this game was also nominated for Game of the Year, it should win in this category as well. But then you think, well, sometimes they like to spread these things around. That didn't happen for sure this year. This year it was just, it seemed like by the numbers, like if this thing was nominated for Game of the Year and it's in another category, well, then it's clearly the best of that category.
which is what should happen.
I generally, I
Awards
think
mean
so.
anything. Okay. Best ongoing game, Helldivers 2.
Yeah, that one I feel like we talked around it a bit and thought maybe Helldivers wouldn't win because it was the first year they were in that category. But I mean, I think they should have won and they did.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't play enough Fortnite, but I think our reasoning for Fortnite was they added a whole engine for making content. There's like 4 sub games that got released last year. Do those count as part of Fortnite or their own individual games? I don't know. Who cares? Helldivers 2 won, the best game of the year. Best art direction, Metaphor Refantagio. This is one I definitely got wrong. I thought it'd be Astrobot, and Sean was correct. He said Metaphor.
Yep.
Best mobile game, Balatro. Best narrative, Metaphor Refantagio. Best performance, not Melinda. Was that Harrison Ford that said Melinda?
I believe so. Yeah.
It's not Adele Dazeem, but still Harrison. Like maybe if you took your shirt off, you'd get it right. For Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, we got to give Microsoft one award at this whole thing. Like, how embarrassing. Best score and music, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Best audio, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Best adaptation, Fallout. A lot of people thought there was a lot of Arcane love and late push. No, absolutely not. Fallout should win. Best multiplayer, Helldivers 2. I think that's appropriate, and I'm very happy about that. Best independent game, Balatro. Best debut indie game, Balatro. Balatro crushing it. Pretty happy about that.
Interesting to note, I listened to an interview with the developer this week. He calls it Balatro.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Everybody else seems to say Balatro. It's just taken over now, but
I'm glad you corrected it. Balatro. Kind of makes sense. Most anticipated game, Grand Theft Auto 6. Best role-playing game, Metaphor Refantagio. Games for Impact, Neva. Now, I don't even understand this one. This is the weirdest award of the night to me. I played through all of Neva. I don't know what the impact was supposed to be. That's not a good sign.
yeah, as we discussed, I felt like it was more about some kind of social message or something, and I didn't really get that from Neva in particular, but I don't get it.
Out of any award, this was the one that made the least sense to me. I think I could see a case for any of these other games over Neva, and I haven't even played half of them. Content creator, Queso. Best action adventure, Astrobot. Best action, Black Myth Wukong. Best fighting, Tekken 8. Innovation and accessibility, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Best community support, Baldur's Gate 3. Best family game, Astrobot. Best sim strategy game, Frostpunk 2. Best sports racing, EA Sports FC 25. This is kind of a surprise. Best VR AR game, Batman Arkham Shadow.
Yeah, we kind of thought Asgard's Wrath, which I think probably should have won, but Batman close second, and I get it.
Asgard's Wrath came out like late December last year, like almost a year from the Game Awards. Do you think that affected it?
I think so. I think it's kind of been forgotten a little bit maybe now, but.
Okay. Best esports game, League of Legends. Best esports athlete, Faker. Best esports team, T1 League of Legends. The Game Changer Award. This first-time award for the Game Awards was given to Amir Satvat in honor of his commitment to helping game developers affected by layoffs and studio closures find jobs through a job database. Seems like this guy gives a lot of his own free time to help people out.
Yeah, this was a weird one. I mean, just, I guess, getting into a little bit of the show itself, like it was definitely interesting to see him on stage and kind of be emotional. And I guess I like the idea of the award. It's just a weird thing when I'm like, okay, I haven't heard of this guy. It sounds like he's doing something good, but like, also like, what couldn't anybody be doing what he's doing? Like, I don't know. It seemed like a
They're
weird,
not. He is.
I guess. Yeah.
And he's not doing it for money.
Yeah. That's something. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of talk about the industry. And that's another thing that maybe is starting to push the Game Awards in the direction of, like you said, very relevant, and just whatever's happening in the game industry that year is getting talked about a little bit within the show. So
I'm very anti that. Like, I don't think he should bring up anything about the state of the games industry. It should be about the awards, people, the best games of the year. There's lots of places to get coverage about news about the games industry and all that. I do not like that Keighley gets sanctimonious and brings in all stuff and has to like qualify everything with this grandiose statement about the state of the industry. I hate that shit.
I am all for the editorializing, but I do, I guess it's more, for me, it's more just, it's a feeling of like a reminder that, people sitting in the audience, at least a lot of them, are developers and they're all part of this thing. It's not like a show just for fans, like that's what I like about mentioning that stuff.
Well, if you really believe that, Sean, and it isn't just pathetic grandstanding by Jeff Keighley, then maybe he would let the winners of Game Awards talk at the Game Awards if he really gave a shit about game developers. Let's get real here. It's all
I think he
just
did.
him making himself look good. Nonsense. Show us what you believe with your actions, Keighley, not with these crying tirades about every game. Get real. This guy's a joke.
I think he did improve that a bit this year. I mean, there were still a bunch of awards that just kind of got read off in between, but the ones that got presented, I felt like they had more time to talk.
I have no proof behind this. I disagree. I think this had the most amount of awards given without a speech or recipient on stage out of any Game Awards, would be my guess.
It's possible. It's definitely possible.
There was a lot of awards that got sped through the entire night.
Definitely.
And if you're really all about the devs and the people in the audience, first of all, that's true for any award show. The people at the award show work in the industry or whatever they're celebrating. Duh. Or if your awards mean anything. So I couldn't disagree more, Sean. I'm sorry. I know you're already mad at me. I might be putting fuel on the fire, but I have to speak my mind.
It's putting a spotlight on these people to the point where some of them become personalities. Like, you get to know people that are working on these games, where it's, like the Oscars, that's all, you already know who these people are, but like the game industry, not so much.
Isn't it the exact opposite? Wouldn't putting the spotlight on them, having them come on stage, accepting an award, making a statement, wearing something, that putting a literal spotlight on them when they win an award, they're doing the exact opposite. They're casting them to the shadows and saying the announcement about the thing you're going to make 4 years from now is more important than you, the people who make the games. But we'll mention, a lot of layoffs right now. We feel really bad about that. But Naughty Dog, whatever game you're working on 5 years from now, we're all going to lose our shit over it. And no one will care about who you laid off or who worked over. It's such I can't believe you fell for this shit, Sean. You're better than this.
I remember saying,
what the fuck's
what
going
you're
on?
complaining what you're complaining about. I remember saying the exact same thing last year. I think it felt way more like that last year. And I think they've taken some steps to improve that. And yeah, I agree. When Keighley himself is the one making these grand statements, it feels a bit like, who are you to be talking about this stuff? But I will say, and this is a spoiler for my top 10 list, I loved the speech by the Baldur's Gate dev before the presentation of the Game of the Year. I thought that was great.
Okay. Now, Sean, I know you're fuming, but other than the Game Changer Award, can you give me one example of how they've improved this from last year?
Well, just what I said. I think they are giving them more time to talk on stage, and they're giving just a little bit more of a feeling of like the people presenting awards. It wasn't as much like celebrities coming out. It was more actual previous winners coming out on stage to present awards. I mean, this whole show is a compromise, 100%. You've got the announcements and the industry hype side of things mixed with honoring people in the industry. And that is the compromise you have to accept with the Game Awards. But I think you can shift the balance one way or the other.
Somewhat anecdotal evidence. I just want to say the Game Awards a few years ago is known for having, I think, the longest acceptance speech by anyone in the history of awards, the actor from God of War. So
Yes.
I don't think that's changed at all. I don't have time to get into specific numbers or research, but I got a lot of time on my hands these days. I might have to do that. But I got to get to the top 10. All right, let's do the last award that we haven't covered, Player's Voice. This is basically your real Game Awards for Game of the Year. Sorry, Huck. This award for multiple rounds of voting starting I'm reading nonsense on Polygon right now. The winner is Black Myth Wukong.
Funny. Funny how that works.
Did they give any runner-ups for that or anything, or was that?
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting to me because, like, I felt like as we talked about, Black Myth Wukong seemed like a bit of a surprise in the nominees for Game of the Year and was like the lowest Metacritic of the bunch. But I guess this is that divide of like gamers love that game and
You don't love it? Do you think that?
How can you say that though? I mean, how do you know that the Chinese community that potentially voted for this game plus everyone else doesn't make up the majority of gamers now? How come the San Francisco elite game journalists are the be all end all? Why don't the billion people in China have a voice in their gaming preferences?
They do. But
what do you mean?
Well,
this one award?
No, it's like it's not a matter of what people like or.
What do you mean? What do you mean not what they like? What are you talking about?
If you tell me that the people who played Black Myth Wukong played every other one of the Game of the Year award nominees, then I'll believe you. I don't think that's true. And I certainly don't think the people who play Genshin Impact and Zenless Zone Zero, free games, paid to play all the other Game of the Year award nominees.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
This is the real Game Awards. This is what you're going to get.
So I'm confused though, Frank. It sounds like you're saying gamers don't love Black Myth Wukong based on this.
Saying they shouldn't.
Or they're willing to vote on it. First of all, let's be clear. I don't have a problem with the Player's Voice Award existing and people voting on what they think the best game of the year is. I don't have a problem at all. I'm saying I don't think the whole awards should be driven by stuff like this. That's all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just, I mean, that to me, it is an interesting award because it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's what people are into.
Have either of you heard of Wuthering Waves?
Yes.
I mean, I've heard of it, but
I have not. Let's check out Wuthering Waves.
I think you would recognize it.
I've not.
I mean, I was confused about the pronunciation of it. It seemed like it's spelled Wuthering Waves, but everybody was saying Wuthering Waves.
Alatro, baby. Who knows? We'll have to figure it out.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay, those are the Game Awards. All right.
I think that's based off. I think it's based off of the famous novel, like Wuthering Heights, Wuthering Waves. I would think.
Hopefully, yeah.
Oh, it's Wuthering.
That's the only other case I've heard that word used. Regardless,
that is true.
I think there is some merit to letting people vote on the games they choose to play as well. If I choose not to play Astrobox, it's not for me. Why should I be penalized in that vote? Because I don't want to play Astrobot. I don't want to play Hellblade 2 because I hate multiplayer games. Or, sorry, Helldivers 2. What were the other games in the Game of the Year? But you know what I mean? Like, if I don't want to play that style of game that's nominated, why should my vote not count? Because the games I don't like are in this list I didn't make.
because the Game Awards are not about representing what people like to play or their favorite games. It's about taking a whole year of all the games that were created in a year.
Yeah.
And hopefully people who have played a majority of them or understand their impact on game design, art, whatever their specialization is, try them. And at the end, this is like a document or a consensus of what the best things created in an entire development community were that year. Whether it's 100% accurate, we know it's not. Like, look at the Oscars. They do not perfectly represent games, but I think game journalists, at the very least, and the Game Awards have done a pretty good job of capturing. And this is speaking as someone who tries almost every super popular game or a major release game. There are indie games I don't try. I will admit it. But I think even the indie games, there are people out there who do try everyone, and eventually they bubble to the top and you get to them. I don't think in my entire life I've played a game that came out 10 years ago and it's like, wow, this is the best game ever. How did no one talk about this?
What? You obviously haven't played Binary Domain. Like,
I have played
holy
Binary
jeez.
Domain. But I think it's less likely that happens. There are enough people out there covering smaller things that those things bubble to the top in awards conversations like this. And I can't think of a better way of doing it other than people who the real reason why these people, and not even to me, developers should have less of a role than journalists, because their job is to play games. Their whole day, every day, is to play video games. And that's the only way you have enough time to judge all these games. It's impossible otherwise.
Yeah. I guess so.
It's certainly a much harder ask than the Oscars. And even the Oscars have that problem of people who are part of the Academy get sent out screeners and they don't watch half the movies. They just watch what they hear is good and then they vote. So that's, a perfect example of how the system doesn't really work the way maybe you think it should. And then games, obviously, like you got 80-hour games like Final Fantasy and stuff that it's like, that's a pretty big ask. Like you said, Huck, if you're not even a fan of that genre, probably not going to put 80 hours in just to see if maybe it's the one that breaks through and you're like, oh, okay, I actually did really like this.
And I don't want to go too far down this road, but this is where you get into cases like, are you playing through it as a casual gamer and just the story? Are you playing through it as 100% completionist? That a game like Ghost of Tsushima would greatly affect your appreciation for that game. So there's a whole nother set of rules that we don't have for doing this. So I just don't think there's a better way of doing it currently, unless you just want to let me pick. Then I think that would be superior. But even then, there's a lot of PC indie games I didn't play, and even some Nintendo games. So, I don't think it should be me either.
Yeah. I think the game of the year would be the easiest category to do this for. But like when you get into like best ongoing game, you think all these outlets are ongoingly playing Fortnite and Warframe and Honkai Star Rail. They're not playing this shit. They're going off of like some community vibe they get. They're not playing it. So it's not even representative of the actual community.
I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago where they were kind of talking about how this stuff happens at bigger outlets like IGN. And, they have like a person who plays, like they're the Genshin Impact person or person who plays Zenless Zone Zero. And then they all get together and they have this big argument of like, this game should beat out this game. And it's like, well, two people are arguing for one person played one game, one person played the other game. How do you make that argument when the other person hasn't played your game? But that's what they have to do, and it just comes down to who's pushing harder, who's got a better case for their game. And
I would add, if there's any award that makes sense to me that it should be a general vibe award, it is ongoing game. It's like you could probably use actual metrics, like are they maintaining a certain player base? Because that's how you keep like a player base going, by changing things, adding new ideas. So a combination of that and just how much people are passionate about the game and love the game, I think is an appropriate way to judge best ongoing game. But yeah, I look, we got to get into the actual 2024 Game Awards, the 10th anniversary, the biggest night of gaming. So do you want to we're going to do our top 10 announcements and see or just moments, could be announcements, could be things that warmed your heart or made you laugh or made you cry. But definitely not things you rolled your eyes at. There should be no, we'll have some time for those types of things, but we will not be celebrating them. Does
Gonna
that
have to change my
fair?
list then, I guess.
Or should we talk about the well, and then we'll talk about the overall vibe of the Game Awards after we do our top 10s. Sound fair?
Sure.
Okay. Huck, take it away. Number 10.
Okay, my number 10 is, it was actually in the pre-show, and it is the Ninja Gaiden Ragebound announcement of sort of like a Castlevania, sorry, Metroid-like, I meant to say, Ninja Gaiden game. And it looked pretty good. It had like a pretty interesting art style, looked pretty polished, and like the animations look good, effects look good. I was pretty impressed with it. So it's definitely on my radar. And so that is my number 10.
Now, I don't know if it's confirmed that it's actually a Metroid-like. I kind of got
It may not be.
I kind of got the vibe that it was kind of like a new classic Ninja Gaiden game, like just side-scrolling, punishing difficulty kind of thing.
Yeah, it is by the developers of Blasphemous. So,
Okay, I kind of assumed just because there's some screens where they're moving to the left. But yeah, you're right. There's no like map visible or anything like that. So it could just be a regular action game.
Currently, no Metroidvania, only because that's the actual tag on Steam for the game. So that could obviously change, but we'll see. All right, good one. Sean, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is Dispatch, which is the game that Aaron Paul came out and was plugging ahead of time, and because he does the voice. And I just thought it looked like an interesting
worthy bit with the other.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
Yeah, it was pretty cringeworthy. But the game looked like it had potential, very kind of narrative focused, but like animated, and it seems like, you know, choice based, dialogue based, a lot of that kind of stuff. The idea being that you're a dispatcher for superheroes, I believe. I don't know. Just it
wasn't totally clear to me.
Yeah, I was definitely too busy roasting that that bit on the Discord to actually pay attention to the announcement. Although, yeah, I'm looking at it at Steam. It looks reasonable, but definitely not much.
It's ex Telltale developers, which kind of gives you probably a sense of what it is.
Not necessarily my thing. And I do want to say, this shouldn't even need to be said. This top 10 list is not about, you know, what the biggest announcements were. It's the ones I cared about the most. My top 10, not so. Witcher 4 is not on my list. I'm not saying it's not.
Most of the big ones aren't on my list. They're just not. Either it was just the cinematic, or it wasn't really something that I'm super hyped for personally. But there were some big ones for sure.
Well, anything we missed like that, we'll talk about after. Okay.
Yeah.
My number 10 is Project Century, which is a new Yakuza team game, but taking place in 1915. And the reason I'm excited is I want to get into Yakuza, and this feels like a new entry point and a cool idea, and possibly like a next gen leap for the Yakuza franchise that has me like, okay, this feels like it's going to be the time to play one of these games. And I was kind of excited by the idea.
Is it actually part of the Like a Dragon series, or is it just that team? I wasn't too sure.
I would assume not, but I don't really know what the whole Like a Dragon is necessarily about. But yeah, I was interested in this as well. Did not crack my top 10, but I was in the running for sure. I was definitely thinking about putting it on there. And also reminded me I need to go back to some Yakuza games, get back in there.
It just says from the same studio of both Yakuza and Like a Dragon, Ryuga Gotoku Studio. So I think it's just taking probably a lot of their game engines and applying it to a different universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My number 9 is Jeff Keighley getting all choked up over Okami 2 announcement. It's more of a burn than like, oh, look how happy he is. I don't know. I got when he was like, everyone should be excited for this or whatever he said. I don't know. I'm like, really, Okami 2? I don't know. Did you
I think it was
guys
something
have
along
like
the
this?
lines of, damn it, I forgot. I meant to get it for the soundboard. This is for all of us.
Yes, there you go.
And choking or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't know. I played like a little bit of Okami. I didn't obviously get it like Jeff Keighley gets it. So Okami 2 just did not hit for me in the same way that it obviously hit for Keighley and everyone else.
There was about 4 moments of just saying, it's such an honor to be able to announce. And he started like literally almost crying and in tears. Like,
Yes.
this shit's embarrassing, dude. Like, if this is real, it's either not real and it's laughable, or it is real and it's even more laughable. Get it together. You're the host of the Game Awards. Start letting people talk about their awards and stop crying.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, this one in particular, there wasn't even, it was barely an announcement. It was just like, this game is happening. That was it. Like, there wasn't even a trailer, really. They just played some music. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Okami, I'm not, like, it's an interesting game. I did not really get into it. Would be curious to go back. But yeah, this one was a bit of a, as soon as he started hyping it up, I was like, okay, what is this going to be?
Yeah.
And
You know,
that made
I thought
perfect
if he was
sense.
crying, my prediction on the Discord that it was going to be Silk Song was correct. That it's going to be there. Like, that feels like something he'd cry about. And Okami just doesn't feel. It was like when Shenmue 3 got announced at E3 and everyone started giving a standing ovation. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Get real.
There's definitely a push from, I think, from Keeley himself, like that has happened over the past few years to bring more Japanese developers into the Game Awards. And I feel like it seems like he really gravitates to some of these games. But it just, there's a focus there that I feel like maybe the general audience doesn't quite have, like just, I don't know, some of those games are a little more obscure here in North America.
All right, fair enough. Sean, number 9 for you.
My number 9 is Turok Origins.
Rock?
Yeah, I'm not like the biggest Turok guy. I've played the first 2 a little bit back in the day, but there was just something kind of nostalgic about it, and it got me excited. So
You didn't revisit them when they came to the Nintendo 64 mature online store front?
no, I haven't yet, and I know they remastered them or whatever too. So maybe at some point.
I was hoping to like this more. I played the remaster of Turok 1 a bit a few years ago, and it was a beautiful nostalgic trip. Like, that is a game I played the first 3 levels of so many times and never further than that. And that's basically what I did with the remaster. But I think this one's third person, and I think a survival co-op game, and yeah, I hope it's good, but it just didn't resonate with me.
Same.
All right, number 9 for me, Shadow Labyrinth, the new Metroid-like featuring a Pac-Man integration of some sorts. I love Pac-Man. I'm looking for new ways to experience Pac-Man, and this felt like weird enough and so tangentially connected to Pac-Man. I was struggling to see what it was, but every now and then you'd see like a Pac-Man going around the walls and make your wall run or something like that. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's more to it here. The big like monster Pac-Man creature with, black goo all over it. It's just weird enough and outside the box enough that it had me intrigued. I want something new with Pac-Man, and I think this just could be it.
It is bizarre. What a bizarre mashup of things. I don't know. I don't even know what to take of this game. It could be amazing or an absolute complete debacle.
Yeah.
Like,
I
so
agree.
strange.
Like to me, whatever this is, they must have prototyped it or had an idea of what it could be, and like, you know what, this actually kind of works, or this could be good. So I'm hoping that at the very least. But yeah, I don't disagree. It could be absolutely horrible.
Yeah, this, I mean, I'll just jump in. It is on my list. We'll get to it, but it's, I watched the trailer, didn't even realize that it was Pac-Man initially until I was reading about it afterwards. And I was like, oh, because I totally missed the little hints of it that are in there. But apparently, this is based on or tied to one of the episodes of what's that show called that just came out on
Secret
Amazon?
Levels? Oh,
What is it?
Secret Levels or Secret Level?
Yeah, I guess there's a Pac-Man episode that
no,
is
I
in
didn't
this
know
style
that.
or something.
Can I change my list?
Curious to watch the episode now.
I didn't know this was Amazon Payola.
Oh. All right, good. Number 8 for me.
Yep.
I put The Witcher 4, mostly because it reminded me I need to play The Witcher 3. And definitely need to finish that game before The Witcher 4 comes out, I think. That should be a goal. But yeah, I thought the trailer looked pretty good. I mean, it was just CG from what I remember. Let me go back to my notes. Yes. But I thought the CG looked good. And I liked the monster that was shown. I don't know if that's actually going to be in game that you have to tackle or not, but yeah, I thought it set up a good vibe for the game.
My favorite part about this was, didn't Keeley introduce it in like a way, was it the unexpected or something like that he said?
Yeah, it was bizarre.
And I was like,
And then
oh.
that like smoke machine coming out all over the stage and stuff.
I feel
He
like
did a really good job of hyping up world premieres and actually getting announcements that have never been anywhere before.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, not that I'm surprised that they're making The Witcher 4. Like,
no, and
just
that's
a
part of the
matter of time.
reason. That's part of the reason why it's not on my list. It's kind of like, well, I think everyone knew it was happening, but yeah, I was surprised or confused by how he introduced it as well, and I thought that was going to be like the subtitle, like The Witcher 4, The
Yeah, me too.
Uninvited, or whatever he said, but I don't see any mention of that, so I don't get it. I guess it was just a misdirection thing, maybe. I don't know.
It was a very like nice CG trailer, and I'm sure fans of that series were very happy to see it. But I don't think there was any dates announced or anything like that. So, I mean, it's better than a Flash animation for Metroid Prime 4, but still not a whole lot there.
Yeah. My number 8 is, Huck already mentioned it, the Ninja Gaiden Ragebound game, which I didn't see in the pre-show and saw it afterwards. But I mean, it's probably a game I'll buy and play half an hour of. I don't know how much I will really get into it, but it does look cool. It's just a 2D return for this series is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's coming up shortly on my list, but the thing I like about it, kind of the same way the Messenger 16-bit stuff captured a Super Nintendo look, I feel like this accurately captures Super Nintendo, where even the Power Rangers game and the G.I. Joe game I watched you and Jay play, Sean, they're trying to get there and it's just not quite right. Even the Power Rangers feels a little off and the animations are just, something is not right. Everything I saw with this game in motion felt right, that it is a good, cohesive 16-bit experience, maybe a bit elevated above 16-bit, but I agree. I thought it looked awesome. All right. My number 8 is Okami, the sequel. Aside from the crying and other things, I thought it looked pretty interesting, and it's been so long. It also reminded me I need to finish Okami. Not that I didn't like it. I did enjoy Okami. I was just getting obsessed with trophies and achievements to the point where it just led to game paralysis. But I love the idea of Okami, and I would really like to see it in a next gen quality of life version, which I'm assuming that's what we're going to get. So I'm pumped. Huck,
Nice.
number 7.
It's Dispatch, already mentioned by Sean. I was a little confused as to what the game actually is. It wasn't totally clear. I understand the Telltale aspects, so it's probably mostly story based, but I was really impressed just with the cartoon style of the game, and it looked like it could have been in game, some of the stuff. But I mean, hard to tell. But I don't know. I thought it looked pretty interesting, and I thought it was something I would be interested in playing through as like a show, almost an interactive TV show. And I can see this being like, I don't know if they announced if it's a Netflix thing, but I can see it being, a Netflix game on their platform in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, my number 7 is Thick as Thieves. Don't really remember if this one was announced previously or not, but it is a multiplayer. What's that?
I said I don't think so. And I think it's Warren Spector that's creating it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a multiplayer stealth game, kind of head-to-head stealth game. And
heist game.
Yeah, like it could be bad. I don't really know, but like something about it just kind of appealed to me. I think kind of reminded me of like the old Spy versus Spy game, if anybody remembers that, like sneaking around, setting traps for people. Like I kind of like the idea of that. So I'm willing to give it a shot.
The vibe I got for this is that it's a multiplayer game and like it's 4 different classes trying to go after the same thing. And you use your abilities in a multiplayer to try and steal whatever it is. And
yeah,
I thought the art style looked really good. People in the Discord thought it looked great. I didn't get it at first, so I went back and watched the trailer, and I really liked the art style. And I don't think it's my type of game, but it did look better than I gave it credit for initially.
Yeah, then it looks like it almost turns into like some sort of like capture the flag type thing, where if you drop the flag, the next person can pick it up and continue along or something. So yeah, didn't make my list, but definitely I did like the art style, and I'm intrigued by it for sure.
My number 6 is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. So we all had it.
Number 6, number 7, number 7.
My number 7, my number 6 is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. My number 7 is Elden Ring Night Rain.
Whoa.
I would say this is a pretty major announcement, and I like the idea that it's standalone co-op, that I can re-enter the world of Elden Ring rather than needing to be, an expert Elden Ring player to play DLC. I can, get back into it. And I've been like really into multiplayer games lately. I play almost nonstop multiplayer games. So I am intrigued by a multiplayer version of Elden Ring.
Aren't the other games co-op, or are they just sort of like you enter a random game and
you can, like, I think coordinate so that you enter a friend's game, but I believe, don't know for sure, but you can like summon temporary help for like bosses you're struggling with.
Yeah.
You need to earn a currency to do that. You can't just do it whenever you want. You have to have a certain item in the game to make that happen, which I think are relatively abundant, but it's not like anytime you want to play multiplayer as much as you want, you can. But I might not have that completely accurate. All right, number 6.
Yeah.
Rock?
I was just going to say on the Elden Ring thing, it's not on my list, but it is interesting to me, and I think I wasn't clear if it was DLC or not, but it is standalone, right? They said that.
Yeah.
It's a smaller set of the Elden Ring map. It's not the whole map. It's like a more focused, smaller size thing.
Okay.
That's what I read.
Huh. My number 6 is Outer Worlds 2. I thought the humor in this trailer was awesome and really like spot on, especially like calling back to their history as a studio, how they like had only made sequels in the past. And this is their first like original one they made. So I don't know. I just really enjoyed the trailer. I liked Outer Worlds 1. I think I played it for maybe 10 hours or something and just kind of fell off, but I don't remember why I fell off in particular. So this game has my interest and yeah, I really liked the trailer. I thought the trailer was well done.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of forgot how funny that lead in was, and like commenting on game sequels was really good. And I thought visually it looked quite nice. Not that I'm really into the first game, but it was a good trailer for sure.
Yeah, every time I see a trailer for Outer Worlds, well, I guess previously they had some DLC or something, but every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I that looks cool. I should go back and play that game because I don't think I ever played it. So, I mean, I was kind of interested as well. So we'll see. But my number 6 is Project Robot, I believe it was called, which is the new gen design game from the designer of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus,
Mito Ueda.
The Last Guardian. Is that the other one's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, not too much to say in terms of gameplay. I thought the trailer, like it's just a cinematic thing, but it looked cool. Like I don't know, something about it. The vibe of it I liked, and then just knowing who it's coming from, I feel like this is going to be something I'll dig. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Nice. As mentioned previously, my number 6 was Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which has been talked about more than any other game at the Game Awards on the show. Your number 5.
My number 5 is Game of Thrones Kingsguard, which I don't think had that been announced before. I don't know if I'd heard of this game before.
I don't know. Like I know there's a few other Game of Thrones games, so I was confused if this was previously announced or not. But
Yeah, that's weird. I'm on a Game Awards 2024 everything announced on IGN, and it is not on here.
yeah, I forgot about it too. So
Was this an ad that I also thought was an announcement? Yeah, because
Could have been.
a lot of actors from the show, right?
I think
Yeah, it had like
Keighley-
Jon Snow and stuff.
I think
No,
Keighley
did they
introed
bring
it.
guys out? Sorry, go ahead. Sean.
No, I think Keeley introed it, so I think it was part of the show for sure.
Okay. This to me right away, I'm like, okay, who owns Game of Thrones? And like it's Warner Brothers, Max. So, okay. So they are gonna do the Mad Max Shadow. I'm assuming it's the Shadow of Mordor team taking like Batman Combat and those systems. And it's like, okay, what very lucrative property can we reskin this as? And Game of Thrones sounds just about right for that.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it. And
I don't know if it's actually made by that team, but I would guess that it is.
yeah, probably. Yeah, Warner Brothers Montreal, I think. But I don't know. I actually haven't watched the show, but I've read the books, and I like the lore around the property, the IP. So I think I don't know. I'm more interested in it because I don't know if it will translate well to a game, to be honest. Because to me, Game of Thrones is about like the politics and, almost like the shock of people dying off. And I don't know if that really works well in a game. You can't really get as attached, I think, to characters in a game necessarily. I mean, you can in like The Last of Us where you're like with the same person for the whole game. But in a game like this where there's so many characters or potentially so many characters, it seems like it would be more difficult to get that same attachment. I could be wrong, but anyways, that's kind of where my interest
characters or the Night's Watch, like doing combat with White Walkers for.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, this could be like a tower defense game on the white wall or on the wall or something like, like who knows what this game really is.
Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of it. So like, I'm trying to think because the whole thing with the Mordor games was this kind of hierarchy of orcs and
like the Shadow of War and
but those games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what can they add to it to make this unique? And I think that's a pretty good idea to have like you're down fighting while controlling tower defense stuff. That could be cool.
Yeah. So is this King's Road? Is that what the game's called?
Kingsguard. King's Road.
Guard.
King's Road. No, you're right. King's Road. I wrote it down wrong.
It says it's an MMO, and I think it may be mobile MMO.
Oh my god! Take
no way.
Which I definitely did not get that from the trailer.
I mean, this must be like a Star Rail Genshin Impact mobile though, like that's on next gen consoles.
Yeah, that's what it kind of feels like. But I mean, hey, like there was a Game of Thrones Telltale game and I feel like maybe there's a strategy game, but I was kind of thinking about it, and it's like they haven't done like a bigger kind of action adventure type thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely potential there. I don't know. The mobile thing definitely has me a little concerned.
Okay, so this says Game of Thrones King, this IGN, has been announced as a story-driven action-adventure role-playing game, which doesn't sound like an MMO to me, coming to mobile in 2025. It was previously known as Game of Thrones MMORPG. So, like, I don't know, like, between those two things, if it is going to be MMO, but oh my God, I'm just so embarrassed that I didn't know what a piece of shit this was.
I did not realize this was mobile. So less
To be fair,
interested
though, it
now.
looked good for a mobile game. I would
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
mobile.
It's developed by Netmarble, which is a Korean company, I think. I don't recognize too many of the things they did, but
All right. John, number 5 for you.
my number 5 was the Harrison Ford appearance. I mean, you gotta have at least one cringeworthy celebrity pop in, and it was perfect. I mean, it was everything I wanted. So
He mispronounced the winner's name. He got a standing ovation for just showing up.
it felt like it was great how condescending he was, like kind of trying to be nice to what's his name? Troy Baker and
I think he screwed up the teleprompter
Todd.
and then was just like riffing. And then he was
Yeah.
just like, let's just get caught up to like the award part. Like,
Yeah. But like he was trying to be nice to them, but it felt so condescending. Like it just, and it was awkward. It was great.
Look, if the guy's got a shirt on, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
it's clouding his mind.
Yeah, he's got to take that shirt off, show off that bod. My number 5 is Project Robot. I think I never really finished The Last Guardian. I really like Shadow of the Colossus, not as much as most. But what had me intrigued in this game was kind of the final shot of like a huge horde of creatures. And like you're a giant, and that kind of interaction and how that's going to play out had me kind of intrigued with where this could go. So I'm definitely excited for it. I have a feeling we're not going to see it for about 3 years, but it was a nice announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Huck, number 4, getting into the top 4.
My number 4
We're going to
is.
have 3 the same, all of us.
Oh, I don't. We'll see. My number 4 is Onimusha Way of the Sword, which is, I don't know if, did you guys ever play the original Onimusha games?
Yeah, dude. I think
okay.
I played Onimusha 1 about
1,000 times.
times I've beaten it.
Yeah. So I'm pretty pumped to see this game come back and to see how it's evolved. I remember just like being absolutely blown away by some of the cinematic moments. I think it was like the one with Jean Reno. I can't remember which one that is. 2. And then also number 4,
3.
I think also had like crazy cinematic moments with like weird flying like demon things. I just like the spectacle of these games. So I hope it keeps up that spectacle moment. And yeah, I don't know. I just really like the vibe of Onimusha. games in general.
I mean, it's the OG fantasy feudal Japan game. So
Yeah.
it deserves its place amongst all its clones. And at first, I was just hoping it was a remake of 1. I could play 1 over and over again. I wanted a remake of 1 so bad, but I'll take a new Onimusha game. That's for sure.
100%.
Sean, your number 4.
My number 4 was already mentioned, Shadow Labyrinth. Not much more to add.
Hi.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the few kind of brand new, had no idea what it was, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool, even though it is weird, but it looks cool.
All right, we're getting into my top 4, and I just want to make a qualifier here, a statement. Honestly, any one of these 4 could be my number 1. I've placed them in order here. They're about equal to me. None of them stand that much above or below any of the other ones. So this next one I'm going to say at number 4 I could have talked myself into making it number one, and I believe it will be Sean's number one. It is Split Fiction, the new Joseph Fares game, which seemed to basically hone in on all they learned on It Takes Two with co-op gameplay and communication in a co-op game environment. And I like that they didn't just revisit those characters. It's a new set of characters and ideas with probably very similar gameplay, or I would assume perfected gameplay from what they learned on It Takes Two. And while I wasn't initially sold on the look of the game, when he finally got into the concept that it's half fantasy, half fiction, or science fiction, I was like, okay, this is starting to even get a little more intriguing and where this could go. And I think it looked great as well. And I trust that this will be their best version of a co-op action game. And I thought it looked great. And the best part, it comes out in March. It's almost out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very soon.
Huge.
Split Fiction, baby. Can't wait.
I will say, I mean, it's on my list. Not going to say where yet, but Joseph Fares, his kind of personality, like, I like the guy and I like that he has that now, that kind of he's known for it, but it also feels like he thinks he has to go up there and just like drop a bunch of F-bombs. Like, it's just like, this is what I do. I have to do
He
this.
does.
I mean, he's basically is the representative gamer there.
Yeah.
He actually feels very appropriate.
Yeah. My number 3 is Joseph Fares in general, just being there on stage.
Nice.
Every time I see this guy, I love him more and more. He's just like such a character, and obviously loves what he's working on, and comes off as extremely authentic, at least to me. And I just like that he does this spiel every time, and that he's getting promoted to higher levels of the stage. It's like, I think the first time he was on that like side stage off in No Man's Land, and then the second time maybe they kept him over there kind of shaded, but now he's like right on the main stage with the microphone and everything, given the full platform. So I don't know, I like this guy a lot. I think he's a great, I mean, the F-bombs, not good for children, obviously, but I thought it was hilarious.
All right. Number 3 for you, Sean?
Number 3 for me is the speech introducing the Game of the Year award by head of Larian Studios, I believe.
Yes, let's hold some space for this.
I thought it was great. I mean, it was obviously a hero moment in some ways, but it was also self-aware. It was also kind of poking fun at the Game Awards and the fact that they basically had their speech interrupted last year. And it just kind of was like, you know, like this interesting, like, yes, we love what we do and the game industry is so creative and fun, and yet there's all this other shit that gets in the way that's super annoying that everyone can relate to, but like still focus on what you love.
Did I miss something? Like, how did his speech get interrupted last year? Like,
I think they got played off.
and this is like, and he wants it to be taken seriously. This is the guy who wore a full suit of armor on stage, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't think he was. Maybe it was. Somebody did. I don't think it was him, but
Yeah, I'll take it seriously when you take it seriously, bud.
but he wasn't that, like, it was also funny. So like, that's what I liked about it.
All right, I don't have a hero drop for Sean here, or else I play it. My number 3, and this will shock people, but like I said, they're all somewhat equal. Number 3, Intergalactic, the Heretic Project. The announcement of the new Naughty Dog game. Now, not a whole lot in the trailer. So, you know, why this cinematic CG trailer should get higher consideration than others. Number 1, I love Naughty Dog. I think they're the best game developers in the world, and I want to know what they're working on, even if it's not going to come out for another 4 years. 2, I want to know that they're doing something different. Now, you might say sci-fi kind of space stuff is oversaturated. That might be true, but I trust Naughty Dog to make the best version of that. And what I saw in this trailer has the small touches and ideas that I would expect from Naughty Dog, like the sword with the wave bars and all that stuff in a small shot. I got everything I need in this trailer that tells me this is in the hands of expert game developers. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the whole time I'm watching this trailer, I'm like, and I know Huck is going to say this too, this music is incredible. What is this music? Like, this music is too good for video games, is all I kept thinking. And then what do they say? Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, developing the score for this game. This is
Pretty
what
awesome.
happens when you can throw around cash like crazy. When you and that just, I was like, okay, finally, we're gonna get absolutely amazing music. Everything my number one thing of everything the last few years has featured music from Reznor and Ross. So this is a marriage made in heaven for me.
Oh yeah,
But it's still my number 3 because it's
shocking. That is shocking.
a long ways away. But I saw someone commenting somewhere about how Naughty Dog just like casually, I didn't know this was a big deal, but the more I think about it, it makes sense. They have someone putting on a jacket in the cinematic, which you never see people putting on clothes. It's just they're on or off. And I was like, oh,
That cinematic probably took them 6 months just to render that one frame,
Yeah, it
or
was,
that one section of the cinematic.
but oh my God, that music. And I think that will be the game of the year, whatever year it comes out, because that's what I expect from Naughty Dog. All right.
Well, I can jump in. My number 2 is Intergalactic. And the one thing I was disappointed with is when she puts on the CD. If there was never a better time to play Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys, that was the time. And they didn't do it. I was very disappointed. But also, I think everything Frank said is spot on. Naughty Dog, like, you just kind of assume the best. But I was a little shocked by the amount of branding in the trailer. And
See, that's what I liked. Well, one of the things I liked.
poor Sony. I think there was like a drink company.
I love
everything was
using
branded.
real world brands and companies
future.
in a future world.
Oh, fuck yeah, Sean. We're finally on the same page here, guy.
Yeah, man.
Glad commerce and capitalism could bring us together.
Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
Sony's not going to be around in this future. I don't know why they're featuring Sony. F those guys.
Yeah, well,
right?
you knew it was
Right.
a Sony game at
They're
that
going to be
point,
the
but-
only fucking electronics company around based on the strength of the gaming division.
I don't know. I just found it a little like too in your face. Like it was almost like product placement rather than like in the world. Exactly. And it just kind of
Think
pulled me out a bit.
futuristic things that use like car brand names. I mean, like the only thing I can think of is Spaceballs using Winnebago. Sean, what do you got?
Well, Back to the Future 2 is the big one. Tons of current brands used in the future. I mean,
good,
and
yeah.
that is the one where it actually is product placement as well. But like, I think there's
Oh, yeah, the
lots of-
Pepsi machine and the how did I forget the Pizza Hut hydrator?
Oh, yeah.
Idiot! Oh my god. Okay,
I
but
mean, like if
I
you
just
want fiction ones, like Mass Effect has tons of companies that supply weapons in the future, but obviously they're not based on real things. So other games have companies in them. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I don't
Star
know.
Citizen's going to have like a million made up companies.
yeah, I mean, one that I guess I didn't think of was Wipeout had like Red Bull ads and stuff on it, and maybe those are just obscure companies in Wipeout. But yeah, I'm in. I just found an article. I there's a lot of brushback about this. I don't know exactly why, but just Huck saying he didn't like some of the stuff. I did a quick Google search and from Forbes, Naughty Dog's new game Intergalactic stirs up controversy with Concord comparisons. If I knew that, I would have made it my number 1.
what's the
Really?
I have
think
to admit, I thought of Concord just because I thought the music and vibe felt like the opening title screen to Concord and the opening cinematic. But other than that, I don't know. Let's see what this article says.
Yeah, that's a little surprising.
They literally don't. Oh, here we go.
Is it just because it's sci-fi? Like maybe because it has the real world grounding of like the brands, But I mean, Concord was like very 70s style,
Well,
and they didn't even have any characters like in that first trailer. Like it's kind of bizarre.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like Concord was kind of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. Guardians of the Galaxy does have modern pop culture stuff brought into a sci-fi setting, but
Sony's trailer has comments turned on. They include such gems as the trailer's 2 hours ago. Ooh, it's so old. We need a remaster. I feel like Will Smith will slap me for making fun of her. Somehow Concord returned. The most surprising thing about this trailer is that Sony left the comments on. I mean, if this isn't clickbait garbage, what a joke.
Good thing you clicked.
Yeah, I did. I played it. Gave them an ad on this podcast. Sean, number 2.
my number 2 is Split Fiction.
Good call.
Frank already talked about. It's yeah, I mean, it looks very similar to It Takes Two, but some new ideas, a new theme. I'm obviously on board.
Okay. My number 2, as I said, could have been my number 1. Helldivers 2, the Illuminate drop. Didn't even make IGN's list of announcement at the Game Awards.
Embarrassing.
I don't get. So, didn't get nominated for Game of the Year. They come onto the stage, do a nice little recreation of the world of Helldivers, little emote nod. Loved it. And then just no big fanfare. Just, we have a new update coming with a new race of enemies, the Illuminate, and it's available right now. My favorite thing, the drop. The there and then drop. Everyone on the Discord is like downloading now, getting back into Helldivers. Everyone is so jacked for this update. Already played with Dustin and Caleb. They told me about everything. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun too. I've been playing it a lot, and I just thought it was the only thing that I really cared about as soon as the show ended. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go play Helldivers 2 right now. All this other stuff, I'm going to wait 4 years, and I'm super pumped for this immediately. And it's so far, it's great, and I hope it gets people back into what is and should be Game of the Year.
Yep. I must say the actor that did the whole like Helldivers get up on stage was amazing. Not on my list. Probably should have been on my list.
Which like the guy is the guy from the opening cinematic of Helldivers.
Yeah, no, but I mean like his actual like real life portrayal of him was spot on and was awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
My number 1 is Split Fiction. I know you guys are like, oh, it just looks like It Takes Two, but I mean, It Takes Two is Game of the Year. So I'm looking for improved It Takes Two, and I also like the splitness of it, the sci-fi and the fantasy aspect of it, and also the sort of the examples they gave of like the you find the dragon egg and then it kind of like evolves as you move through somehow. I thought that was kind of cool. So lots of interesting things in that trailer and lots of fun looking gameplay. I think it's going to be just as good as It Takes Two, if not better. So number 1.
I can't figure out what Sean's number 1 is. Is it Keely crying?
My number 1 is what yours should have been. Both of yours should have been Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet.
Well, you didn't say that yet? Oh, okay. No.
Which is like probably the only thing I don't like is the title. I think it's a kind of crappy title, but whatever. But yeah, just Naughty Dog doing sci-fi. Yes, it feels like Mass Effect, Starfield, kind of that vein, but you just know that it's going to be a great story with great characters and a lot of attention to detail. And I do think the brands being showcased in this trailer is a big part of that. Like I don't think they're going to be throwing that stuff in your face if it's just meant to be product placement. Like it's very much about immersing you in the world and saying this is a believable future that we all could be living in. So yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, I'm sure it is a ways off still, but I can't wait.
Yeah, me too. My number 1, and this is very personal, is Onimusha, Way of the Sword.
Whoa.
There
You
you
don't
go.
you don't understand
Hello.
how much I love Onimusha. This is before I even met you guys, or like Sean and I hadn't talked in a really long time. I played Onimusha, I don't know, like 5 times on PlayStation 2. Then I got a drop on Xbox. I played through it there. The remake came out last year. I played through that twice. I could sit down and play Onimusha right now. That is one of my, I'm thinking now, did I have it on my top 30 of all time? Because if I didn't, something's wrong with me. And that was a huge omission because it's one of my comfort games. I could play Onimusha anytime. So to get a new Onimusha, a franchise I thought might be dead, I was super excited and frankly embarrassed. When the Wisps came up, I was like, "Good, this is familiar. Maybe it's Onimusha." And on the Discord, I said, "Sekiro 2?" question mark. And then it was, and I felt like
You second guessed yourself.
shit.
You didn't edit the comment to make yourself look cool in hindsight?
I should have. I should have guessed Onimusha because I wanted it to be that, and maybe I was just emotionally hedging. But I cannot wait. 2026 Onimusha Way of the Sword, and those.
I guess that release date is interesting because most games these days would not announce that early. So that is a little
fiction. 6 months out, or no? He said
3.
he's like, "You'll be playing it in 2 months." Like, doing the math. Okay, maybe pretty generous. 2
Not
months.
quite.
But that's our top 10 lists. Now, anything else we should mention that we didn't cover in our top 10 lists? I just have one thing that I thought looked really good, not necessarily for me, or it would be my number 11, which was Rematch, which is basically, it's from the developers of Sifu, but it's like real soccer as Rocket League. And I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah, I was kind of interested in that too. I mean, like, obviously, what can you bring to a soccer game that isn't already being done is a question, but it did look like it was getting back to some of the simpler sports games kind of before EA took over and just made everything super complex. And so I'm interested for sure. I guess, okay, I have one honorable mention, and then there's probably a couple big trailers we didn't mention. But the honorable mention for me, Stage Fright, which was kind of a co-op multiplayer thing from the makers of Overcooked. I still don't really know what it is. I think it is like kind of a horror game, although I didn't totally get that vibe from the trailer. But
I thought it had a bit of a It Takes Two vibe where there's two split halves of a map and you have to work together to navigate some kind of scenario and communicate, which I think it could be amazing. I just didn't see enough of it there.
Yeah, so that's probably why it didn't make my list. But it was also cool because the way they showed the trailer, it became part of, like, they showed you the live in the auditorium. Like, if you remember, like, it kind of went black for a minute and then it showed Keeley like looking around the room and then the characters came up on stage in a way. Like, I don't know. It was interesting how they showed the trailer.
It was good. Yeah, I probably should have had it on my list in retrospect. I don't think it was in this recap I looked at either.
It's a good thing you trust IGN for all your Game of the Year notices. And not Game Junk and
love IGN.
Streamers.
Huck, any honorable mentions for you?
Let me just take a look at my list.
I feel like there's
here.
one that should have been on Huck's list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't.
Let me see if I can guess.
Yeah, there's one I thought would be there for sure.
I don't know.
Mafia,
Yeah.
the old country, a new Mafia.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but like, I mean, it was just another cinematic trailer. I was already hyped after the first one, so it wasn't like as impactful, I think.
Oh, we'd
seeing
seen this game before?
Yeah, there was the announcement trailer. It wasn't like
didn't know that.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't anything big, but I knew it existed, and this didn't really like show any gameplay, so I wasn't blown away. Next, I'll need some gameplay sprinklings.
Okay, the next major announcement I would say we didn't cover was Borderlands 4 gameplay reveal trailer.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
at least on the Discord and in my eyes, like was really underwhelming. And like even visually, especially anything that was in an interior looked pretty dated. There were some outdoor landscapes that looked a bit better, but I mean, I'm sure fans of Borderlands are like, yeah, it just feels like more Borderlands. But I was like, this is not going to bring me back to Borderlands unless it's amazing in a way that I don't see yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add. Like, I've dabbled in the other games. I'm interested. It didn't look like anything, very different, but it looks nice, I guess. So I'll probably check it out.
And then the other big one, I think, is a new Sonic Racing game, Sonic Racing Crossworlds, which I know the both of the previous, or maybe more than that, of the Sonic Racing games are pretty popular. So not huge to me, but kind of a big announcement. And I guess the last major one is that Virtua Fighter is returning.
Yeah, some people are pretty excited about that.
I like Virtua Fighter. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I guess the whole thing with Virtua Fighter was it was kind of the first game, like fighting game where it wasn't 2D, right? Like you could it, like rotated around you and stuff. I don't know if that's interesting anymore, but I mean, I guess it's got its own feel and stuff. So
I don't know. I always thought Virtua Fighter had a nice, like, stripped down but complex. It's not a lot of flashiness that you see in the other fighting games, where it's
Right, yeah.
coming down to like special moves and meters. It was more tactical, but still kind of accessible in a way to just kind of button mash and have fun with. So I don't know what this Virtua Fighter 6 is going to be like, but I'm excited that it's going to come back. And I think maybe like Dave the Diver expansion. That's kind of exciting. Some PC announcements for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Last of Us Part 2. We saw some more gameplay for Slay the Spire 2. I think that's everything.
Well, we got to touch on this Catly game.
This isn't on my article either.
Well, I'm sure you remember the trailer though, right?
Yes, I do now. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know what to make of it. Some people were, I think, saying that it seems kind of AI generated partially or something, but
Wasn't this an ad?
Yeah, I thought
mean,
it was kind of an ad too.
I thought it was an ad. I wrote it down as an ad.
it is an official Game Awards reveal trailer from what I'm seeing here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's another part of it. It just didn't quite feel like a real game even. Like it's just strange. So I don't know what to make of that one, but some people were talking about it.
Clive from Final Fantasy 16 coming to Tekken 8. Huge. I don't know.
Huge.
I think we've covered it all, unless Sean has something that is omitted from my article.
Not from what I mean, I guess there was that Post Malone game.
Oh yeah, Posty. That was an addition to Killing
Murder
Floor, right?
Circus.
Yeah, don't care.
That was also an ad, though, I believe.
It might have been.
I can't tell. I mean,
I thought it was an ad.
the video
well.
says the Game Awards trailer, but I don't know. But yeah, it was
That
just
we paid
funny
for.
that he was kind of introing it or whatever.
All right. So overall, I would say a very good Game Awards, like aptly event of the year for me. How did you guys feel, Sean? You weren't as into it as I was, so.
I mean, it started off strong and kind of trailed off a bit at the end, which I guess isn't that abnormal for these things. But yeah, it was pretty good overall. I mean, I would say the big reveals that I think people were the most excited about were mostly games that I was like, not really my thing, but there were some big announcements. I think Keeley himself put out something on social media ahead of time saying that there was going to be like 3 or 4. I forget what the phrase he used was, but like,
Tear-inducing moments.
something like that. And I think, for the most part, that was accurate. It just depends if you were excited about those games or not.
Huck, any last thoughts or summary?
I don't think so. I thought it was a little long, but definitely, had a good amount of games announced and shown. And I thought the trailers that they showed also were all good lengths. Like nothing was too long. Sometimes they'll show like a 6-minute trailer or something like that. We didn't have any of those. I thought they did.
The Witcher 4 one was a bit long, but
yeah, that one was probably the longest one. Yeah.
I mean, a minute of that trailer was just designed so people are like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. That was pretty good.
All right. Well, we have to give letter grades here, unfortunately. So I'll give mine first.
Okay.
It's A plus. The best.
A plus? Did I hear you correctly?
The Game Awards were an A plus.
Just because of Onimusha, eh? Holy shit. That's a high grade.
Naughty Dog, my favorite game developer. I thought the pace was great, so much stuff, and not a lot of wet noodles. I think that's ultimately what I judge it as. Like the only wet noodles were paid ads, and if that's like paid ads are always wet noodles. That's
I don't count those either.
So
yeah,
I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, I'll give it an A as well. I won't go the plus route, but I'll give it an A. I enjoyed it as well.
I will go B plus.
He changed it. It was going to be a B minus. I can see.
No, I was between an A minus and a B plus, but
he went down just to go against me.
I went up. I was going to be a B plus, but then I was like, Onimusha was awesome. So,
all right. Well, that's the Game Awards. Anything else we need to discuss?
No,
I don't think so. I mean, I guess is this our last episode before Christmas? I don't know when our next episode is going to be.
I don't think so, but it might be.
There is like the year in review stuff, like the Xbox, PlayStation, Steam. I think the Steam one comes this week, so that's something we can cover.
That feels like a nice present to unwrap on Christmas.
Yeah.
I'll just say this: I am loving Marvel Rivals. It is so
really.
Good. Oh yeah.
Even with COD and Helldivers, you're still playing that.
I rotate all three all day. That's the only 3 games I've played all week.
Okay. Cool.
I love them all. I'm officially a multiplayer gamer. I never thought it would happen. You never know what's coming in your life. Just keep that in mind. You think you got things figured out, and then you become a multiplayer gamer, and it changes everything. All right. Thank you for listening or watching on youtube.com/GameJunk. Discord links are there. Let us know what you thought of the Game Awards and or this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.